the patient advocacy organization, they see the healthcare system more clearly than anyone else
Sure.
because they live close to what the patient experience every day.
Every day.
Like what you just said,
Yeah.
it is the bottom line. I mean, they are
Hmm.
passionate, they want to make a difference, and the clarity, they
Yes.
cut through the noise.
Welcome to the Building the Noise podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Building the Noise podcast. I'm Matt Teresco, and with me today is Eric Racine, one of the preeminent patient advocates in all of industry. Eric joins us from a large pharmaceutical organization with an absolute trove of experience. But where Eric stands out from many leaders we've spoken to thus far is that he's got some receipts to back up some of the claims and the success that his team has displayed. And we're here to talk about Eric. We want to understand how Eric got into his role, what he feels about patients, and really, as we always talk about here of Building the Noise, that there are folks in the industry that are looking to support the patient each day. Eric, welcome.
Well, welcome very much. This is great, Matt, and thank you. And I hope I'm going to use that introduction of me to share with people. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Very humbling.
I will travel around with you wherever you need. Uh,
That's very nice of you.
So, Eric, to start, you've been in the advocacy role for quite some time, but maybe you can help the audience understand how you got into advocacy. Tell us a little bit about your career and
Yeah,
why. Why
yeah.
advocacy?
Yeah. Well, thank you. This was not a straight line, but there was a thread throughout my career.
Mm,
So first, just quick, I came from healthcare from very much a personal experience. I lost my brother and my sister very young age when I was back in Canada, and they had a rare disease, and there was no medication, no innovation for them. And seeing their suffering, seeing my parents' suffering, changed everything, and how I see medicine. So in this case, there was no science for them.
mm,
So I went in healthcare. I eventually moved to the US from Canada, where I'm from. I became a pharmacist, and I work in health system there. And in Detroit, what I saw there
oh,
was another,
Detroit.
yeah, Detroit, that's right. And I saw these other access barriers. So in the case of my family, it was no innovation. But
Mm,
in case of a health system and inner city system, what I saw there was that innovation existed. We had science, we had care, we had doctors, so on, and technology, but patients were just not able to access them because
yeah.
of other type of system access barrier. So for me, thinking about this, it's personal. I've seen it in practice. And then I joined the biopharmaceutical industry, and this experience really stayed with me. And in biopharmaceutical company, I did multiple roles
Mm,
in commercial, market access, and policy, and in the US and global, other countries. And I've always been around this concept of science, innovation, policy, access. And today I lead healthcare. It's called Public Affairs and Patient Advocacy at
mm,
Sanofi, my team, amazing team. They work with patient organization, society, coalition, any type of stakeholder that we truly can partner with to have experience to see what patients are going through to have access to medicine, and we can partner to solve that.
yeah.
So bottom line, this is my career. Access to innovation to me, this has never been like a theory or something. I've seen it,
Yeah.
and that's what I want to do.
I love that because, I got into this because of my own personal experience. I grew up in a household with a mother who was a labor and delivery nurse in the inner city in
So,
North Jersey, right? And you get it in your bones. And when you
yeah,
hear some of these stories, and obviously, when you're affected by it as closely as you were, we're driven. If we have the opportunity to make
yeah,
change, we want to. Um,
exactly.
when did you first, make that decision of pharmacy, and then to come to the States of all things
Yeah.
and leave Canada?
Well, I was a pharmacist there in a hospital, and I wanted to do a doctorate. I wanted to
Mm,
specialize at the time in cardiovascular, and I wanted to do more study, more research. I wanted to publish book. I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to do the academic career first.
yeah.
And this is and as a French Canadian, then you apply to these American university, and It's a second language,
Sure.
and only some of them accept people from Canada, so you have to compete and so on. And Detroit was my home for
Mm.
a few years. Yeah,
Yeah, I know it well. Having been a Buckeye in Columbus, we head up to Detroit to actually head over to Whistler
yeah,
for some evenings. But
yeah,
the issues that we face here with access, I think that in the States, a lot of people hear about Canadian healthcare
yeah,
and how easy perhaps it is to access care there. And not looking
yeah.
for any opinions, but as you think about your experience. Um, is there any clarity you can provide to the general patient here in the United States about our system versus the ex-US or Canadian system?
Yeah. I work in many systems. I was a pharmacist in Canada, but I work in the US for many, many years, but I work around the world. I work with
Mm,
more than 40 different countries and looking closely at the healthcare systems and comparing them
yeah,
and seeing how we can ensure access to medicine and across multiple therapeutic area in multiple countries. The US is truly unique. We have this unique ability to have innovation, amazing innovation. Some of the scientists, some of the technology, some of the healthcare delivery, the physician, the access can be there for truly remarkable miracles sometimes. I
yeah,
like to say, frankly, that the biopharmaceutical innovation create little miracles all
they
the
really
time.
do.
Yeah, yeah. But if patient cannot access them, it doesn't work. So when you look into these different countries, the US is very lucky. We have
Mm,
an FDA regulatory approval. People can have access to it. There's a lot of resource in the system, but there's still a lot of people who just
yeah.
cannot have access to them.
Yeah, and I actually would really want to dive in there. I know
Yeah,
ex-US we hear, of countries like Spain, for example, that
yeah,
are on average 10 years behind
yeah,
us in access to some of these little miracles, as you said,
yeah,
always remembering that there's a patient on the other
yeah.
end of that 10-year journey. Um,
Yes.
but in the States specifically, you had noted some of the challenges in Detroit. What do people like me, so to speak, a white male in the United States, not understand about some of the access challenges in the inner cities, but also in rural communities?
Yeah, well, it goes back to the fundamental approach that patient will not benefit from innovations, care, technology, medicine, vaccine, if they cannot access them.
Hmm.
So we spend in the work we do, we spend years and years on medicine and vaccine, years of science, years of investment, hope. We work with some of the top researchers, some of the top institutions in the world. But if the patient, such as in Detroit, or could be in inner city or rural, or people are vulnerable,
Yeah.
there's multiple type of access barrier. If the patient is diagnosed too late, patient cannot get coverage, they cannot afford the treatment,
Hmm.
they cannot find the right physician or specialist,
Oh, yeah.
or they get lost in the system.
Yes.
A lot of people get lost in this. It's complicated. We have a lot of frictions in the
Yeah.
US healthcare system. Then the innovation that will never truly reach the patient and that will not work.
Yeah.
So to me, this is why patient advocacy, the type of work that you do, Matt, the type of work that we do,
Yep.
truly matters.
Yeah, no, I've seen it shift in my own life because of it.
Yeah,
Patient advocates showed up, and for 18 years I was lost in the system.
yeah,
18 years of opiates
that's it.
that should have taken my life, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but it was because of an advocate that I was able to find the light and get out. Um,
yes,
as you think about your career, you know,
yeah.
what do you feel at this point in industry is most misunderstood about the role of patient advocacy?
Well, patient advocacy to me is very important. Look at your story, Matt. You're a patient. You're someone who had a condition. You met a patient advocate who helped you, and now you are an amazing patient advocate yourself, and you're
Thank you.
helping a lot of people.
Thank you.
But you see, what people in my mind, to go back to your fundamental question about what people misunderstand or so, is people see the visible part of it. They will see the relationship, the sponsorship, the meetings, the event. Am I right? These things matter. It's
Yep.
very, very important. But what they're seeing is just the input, the activities.
The
They,
tip of
they
the
don't see the
iceberg.
true, that's right, that's right. They don't see the outcome of it. And the deeper work that people like you do, that people like me and my team and others
Yeah.
in the industry do, is it understanding the system, understanding the patient barriers, the barriers that the patients are facing, and partnering with the right organization, the
Mm,
one that can address them. And that's a discipline to me.
yes.
This can be a policy issue, can be a diagnostic gap, can be a healthcare delivery system issue, an insurance issue. And to me, uh, that is the thing that people misunderstand. And I think it's self-inflicted because when people talk about patient advocacy, we revert back often to the activities that we do
Mm.
instead of the outcomes that we're doing.
Yeah, we hear it all the time about, well, what KPIs should I measure in patient
Yeah,
advocacy? Well, how do we measure the ones that most folks don't understand? We know
yeah,
that they're the most important, but for executive leaders or even commercial team leaders, they don't understand what the value is of doing that.
yeah,
And it's always the stuff that gets the press sometimes, like
yeah,
as you referenced, the meetings, the symposia, the events, but it's always, in my understanding, I'd love to get your sense on this. It's always the between the meetings is where the
yeah,
magic happens.
yeah. I
How
know,
have you
absolutely.
how have you seen that play out for your organization and for your team?
No, absolutely. The aspect of the relationship, the trust that you're building, the discussion that we have in the hallways, or these are so important. These little insights we're
Yeah.
gathering, and that's so important. But I think to me, it goes back to when you talk internally or when you're trying to assess your impact. Um,
Mm,
it is the patient access problem you're trying to fix or to
sure.
change. So, are the patients, after your efforts that you have done in partnership, are the patient getting diagnosed faster? Are they reaching the right specialist, the right doctor, the right provider faster? Are the policy barriers that they're facing addressed? Are the patient better able to access and stay on the care that they
Mm,
deserve? So
yes.
these are the important outcomes that you need to share internally and externally,
Yeah.
because that's everything we're trying to do together. Am I right? That
Yeah.
these are the true outcomes.
And Eric, you bring up a wonderful point here with regards to discussing it around the access issues, a
Yeah,
language that it doesn't matter where you are in the industry, folks will understand access issues. It might mean different things to different people. But when
yeah,
you're bringing the work of advocacy back internally to talk about the access issues, I think that's why, let's face it, the industry as a whole has struggled in talking about the value and the impact of advocacy.
yeah, yeah,
I've never seen that with your organization because, again, I would say, and I commend you for this, it's that discussion around the access issues, the access
yeah,
barriers.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, I appreciate that. Like every functions. You work in large corporation, and everybody is trying to do the right thing. And the aspect of we talk a lot about patient centricity and importance of
mm,
patient centric, but to me, it's not a philosophy.
mm,
And sometimes it's a philosophy. It's like putting a picture of a patient or talking about
sure.
this is important. This is truly important. But I think the issue that is critical is this misunderstanding that some people may have is to think that it's about this relationship only.
Mm,
But to me, it's much more than that. It's really that discipline. Patient advocacy or the kind of work, whatever name
yep.
it's called in a company, it's this skill set, this new skill set that it's about that it's very strategic. You need to understand clearly the trust in the relationship, but you need to understand the patient access barriers. You want to understand the system.
Hmm.
It's a discipline. It's a judgment. You have to decide where to focus. You have to decide what to support,
Yeah.
who to support, but more importantly, what to stop doing
I was
in,
going to
in
say
making,
the
yeah,
trade-off, right? When
that's
you
right.
when you pick something to support, oftentimes you're picking something not to support.
That's very hard, am I right? Especially in that
Yes.
space, because especially you as an advocate, we all
Yeah.
have this big heart, am I right? We want to
Oh,
do everything,
yeah.
but you can't.
You can't. It's finite. And at the same time, a lot of the educational work that we've been doing for nonprofits is to help them understand that we have to maintain this independence between the
Yeah.
two. And it's becoming a much more difficult landscape to operate in when the income, so to speak, or the dollars out of Joe and Sue America, so Joe and Sue American, are so few to be able to donate to organizations that need that support. The politicians start looking and saying, well, where's your money coming from? And it's how do we maintain that reality that there is a barrier between the two. As I've heard it been put, I'd love your feedback on this. That language of patient centric. The
Yeah.
way I've been hearing it recently is it's more patient led, and your organization is Sanofi centric, but it's a patient led adding role that's
Yeah.
focused on the organization through letting the patients lead. What are your
No, it's
thoughts
really,
on that?
yeah, no, I like the way you say it. And you touch on this important point of the aspect of all these organizations, and you think here about biopharmaceutical company, or you think about a patient advocacy organization. You can take many. You can
Yeah.
be a payer, a physician, a pharmacist, a nurse. We are independent entity,
Yes.
and the how we partner together. It's what we're touching on here. I
Hmm.
think the what is clear. The what is clear to me. We're
Sure.
trying to help patient have access to cares. Okay,
Yep.
that's clear. That we need to align and work together and show that we're making a difference, because at the end of the day, this is who we're serving. So the
Sure.
what to me is clear. The how, that's what you're touching on. And the
Right.
how has to be independent organization, highly trust, transparent.
Hmm.
It would be a failure to think that these partnership are all about, like quid pro quo. No, this
Yeah.
is there's a lot. It's not what. Yeah,
Believe me, Eric, I got on a rant on Instagram of all places
yeah,
about this because of folks wanting to say that the American Academy of Pediatrics
yeah,
uh, is a quote unquote shill for the industry. You
yeah,
know how many
yeah.
lawyers there are inside of organizations in the industry
Exactly,
who
exactly.
want nothing more than to say no to
Yeah, yeah.
everything, right?
I know,
So
I know, I know.
every
It,
dollar is tracked and accounted for. That's not to say that the American Academy of Pediatrics
yeah,
is good or bad,
yeah,
but that the dollars are for that patient to get the access that they need.
yeah.
That's what these
I think
programs are about.
no, I think so. I agree, Matt. I think it's a false debate.
Me
It's a
too.
false narrative. Um, I I fundamentally believe, and I said that many, many times, the problem facing the patients are way too hard for anybody to try to solve together.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I don't remember I've ever met someone who wakes up in the morning and say, "Let me be a bad
Yeah.
actor
Yeah.
in the system.
Sure.
Let me do something really, really wrong." I mean, there's people we see that in newspaper and so on,
Yeah.
but the people I work with and the
Yeah.
people that I'm sure you work with,
Oh,
we
yes.
all want to do something. Am I right?
Yes.
Uh,
We
but we
want to
need to
lower
partner.
that barrier, right? We're
We
we're
we need to
all
partner.
looking to help. And I
We need
couldn't
to partner.
agree more. That partnership
Yeah,
is, for patients, as you know, to find
yeah,
an advocacy organization in the first place.
yeah.
I would say the AI age is helping that connection,
Hmm.
but it's still difficult. I think by the last data that we ran, only about 40% of patients who are, as we call it, affected but disconnected, get access to a patient advocacy organization. So there's still that 60% that we're all trying to figure out how do we help, because if we don't, no one will,
Yeah. No, no, no,
right?
absolutely. The patient advocacy group to me is probably what makes me the most inspired about the
Mm,
work that I do.
sure.
When you think about it, they are, and you talk about this before, and you are a patient advocate yourself.
Mhm.
You're working with limited resources,
Yes.
uh, limited resources in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in the system across multiple function, multiple stakeholders, and the government and
Yeah.
payers and employers. But at the end of the day, patient advocacy groups are to me, and I said it many times, are truly the unsung heroes of healthcare. They
Yeah.
have limited resources, high expectation on them, and very personal stake.
Yeah.
They help people, they help patient, they help family,
Yeah.
they push, they push relentless pushing for better policy, for research, and helping people navigating through this really, really too much friction in the healthcare
Yeah.
system.
Yep.
So, so I literally the
They
people
are
who
the
inspire me
heroes.
the most. Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
I mean, I worked with the a very small rare disease organization most recently, SYNGAP One Foundation. Unfortunately, that we had to shut it down, but for 3 years, the budget was $50,000
Yeah,
to try to help about 200 patients spread around the world
yeah,
have a data registry that we kept running. I mean, all of these things have costs. Not alone,
yeah,
no one was taking a salary of any
yeah,
kind. These were
yeah,
all parents who were trying to find the best that they could for their children. That's the essence of advocacy right there. And
yeah.
how can you not want to help?
But you see what you just said here that is so concrete is that the patient advocates, when you talk to them,
Mhm.
they truly bring you back to what
Yes.
is actually happening to people.
Yep. And what matters?
It's what matters. It's so easy, especially if you work in a big corporation, to be looking at dashboards and
Mm.
slides and strategic plan. And, this is big corporation. It's
Yeah.
every organization. But talking to a patient advocate, you
Mm.
sit down and you see what's happening to the people. They keep things real, very
Yeah.
real. And
Very. Yeah.
yeah. And to me, that's why I love to talk to patient
Sure.
because in patient advocacy group, because all of a sudden you remove all the clutter, all the
Yeah.
noises, and you
Yeah.
go to what is real.
I constantly tell my wife, uh, whatever problems I felt I had that day, they're nothing in comparison to what patient advocates and patients are facing on a daily basis, you
Yeah.
know, and how quickly I forget, having been that patient just 3 years ago, um,
Yeah.
that I yearned for a moment like now, and now we get in it and it becomes our
Yeah.
new normal, and we forget how quickly it can all change, right?
Yeah.
And I would love to dive into that policy side, because I think
Yeah.
we're in a time in our country where, unfortunately, most people don't think about healthcare until they have to use it. They don't think about policy issues until it impacts them or their loved ones. How do you feel we can bring more attention and awareness to the general public about the system itself, but some of these laws and potential changes coming not only at the federal level, but also the state level?
Mm. It's a good question. A lot of debate on
Yeah.
what's right
Yeah.
from a country. Where do we bring our healthcare system? A lot of people throwing data
Mm-hmm.
and perspective and opinion. Very, as you know, it's very difficult right now to
Yeah.
get agreement across different political spectrum. People with strong belief. It's very
Mm-hmm.
hard right now to come together to
Yeah.
solve something big. It's not easy. I don't have the solution
Sure.
to this bigger problem that we have as a country right now in terms of that. But what I do know is what I've seen it working is when it was grounded into the reality of what the people in the trench are going through.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and it goes back to the patients, it goes back to the healthcare professional,
Mm.
the people who are truly experiencing the system. So all of a sudden, it doesn't become like a numbers on a slide or
It's a
um,
real person.
it's a real patient.
Yep.
Um, but you said it right. You're not close to that. You don't realize how much friction is in the system exists
Yep.
until you start using the system.
And as I like to say, if you can think about our healthcare system like an airport, however, there are no signs and no guides.
Yeah,
So you
it's a
you
good.
get dropped in the middle of it, hoping that you find the right exit, and that you take the right flight.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I may, if you don't mind, I will borrow it.
Please, yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that as you said, there's no single bad actor that we can point to, but there is apathy in the
Yeah,
system, right?
yeah,
And I think from what I can sense in the market research that we run and from anecdotes and stories, the patient community, the general public is angry. They know, or they're all looking, everyone's looking for someone they can point their finger at. But at the end of the day, the system as a whole has to do that self reflection.
yeah,
But you said it perfectly. If we begin with anything other than the patient, and even I would say the doctor patient relationship,
yeah,
we're going to lose, right? It
yeah.
has to be that as the foundation and all decisions made with that in mind. So we kind of skimmed past you coming to the States, getting into the industry. Tell me a little bit about your early industry career. And really, what I'm trying to understand is how did you find advocacy? Was that
Mm.
where you wanted to go? Was that your mission? Or was it came around?
Yeah, no, it came around. It was not a straight line at all.
Sure.
These moments I've had in personal life and professional life, and actually in the healthcare system, these moments really stayed with me. And
Sure.
so when I joined the industry, the biopharmaceutical industry, I work in multiple functions.
Sure.
That is commercial, market access, healthcare policy, that it was in global role in different healthcare system. And I was truly amazed about all these healthcare
Yeah.
system stakeholder trying to
Yeah.
help and try to debate and what's right, what's wrong, and so on. But what I found is that this function of working with patient group, although it did not exist per se in some country or we didn't call it patient advocacy in some country, but we're always trying to, everybody is trying to
Yeah.
listen to what the stakeholder is experiencing so that we can better develop our medication or making sure that people have access to this medication. And eventually, we said we need a function to do this years
Sure.
and years ago. And we build on that. And sometimes these functions in different company and even in my company
Hmm.
uh, was dispersed. After
Yeah.
that, we centralize, and after that, we regionalize and localize. Multiple structure, you could do that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this function now is a discipline, is a profession. In the past, it was not, but now it is.
I want to dive into that because I think that a lot of our listeners are in roles like yours
Yeah,
that hear the word, it's become a discipline within
yeah,
the organization. And that's what we try to do is to help advocacy and at least that patient access challenge or mission
yeah.
become part of the company's DNA. How did you instill that?
Well, people talk about the patient all the time, and patient centricity became the big thing. We wanted to be more
2009,
patient centric. Yeah,
2010. Yeah. Patient
patient,
centricity. Yep.
patient centricity. I've seen many people that were truly, we could consider them as very patient centric, who were the change agent.
Hmm.
Myself, I
Yeah.
was someone who truly believed in that because as a healthcare professional
Yeah.
was something that it was not even a question. But
Yeah.
for culture, for some people, culture needed to change. Some people
Mm.
were not brought into this kind of system. But I've seen like amazing people who were truly like the early groundbreaking people in the industry. One when Sanofi bought Genzyme, a
Mm.
pharmaceutical company, a very
I was
bio-innovator.
I was
Yeah, yeah.
affected by that. I was with Genzyme Genetics back then.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, so
Ah,
when
I did not know
Sanofi
that.
bought Genzyme,
Yeah,
Genzyme Genetics was sold to LabCorp, and I got
yeah.
caught up in that whole shuffle. So I remember those
Wow.
days well.
It's a small word, isn't
Yep,
it?
yep.
Uh, but when I personally met the people from Genzyme, all of
Mm,
a sudden, this was not just about patient centricity. It was about how to bring the voice of the patient throughout the whole system, from research, from development, from manufacturing, from access and education and awareness, the whole
yeah,
life cycle and in a very practical way. The rare disease, people may say, well, yeah, for sure, you have to do this, but they were doing it. I mean, and many of them I work with again, and
sure.
some of, to me, I've learned the most from. And so I think after that, we studied, we worked closely with them. They helped the broader company and I worked globally to try to bring this philosophy around the world.
Yeah.
And now it's ingrained into the
Yeah.
DNA of Sanofi. Yeah.
No, you talk about these early movers. Jane Gershkowitz,
Yeah.
for example, comes to mind as one of
Yeah.
those early movers. And, she ultimately was able to be part of an organization that had a chief patient officer. Do
Yes.
you feel that as an industry will move in that direction, that at some point we will recognize not only does the patient take our drugs, so to speak, they're the
Yeah.
end user, right?
Yeah.
They are our
Yeah.
customer. Because
They are.
I would argue that at times, I haven't seen this honestly at Sanofi, but in
Yeah.
other organizations,
Yeah.
the patient isn't necessarily in the mindset as being the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because the way the healthcare system is, am I
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So people would think this way that the patient is not the ultimate stakeholder. I
Mm,
understand because I can understand the logic behind
sure.
them because they say the payers is reimbursing
Yep.
and the prescribers, but this way of thinking is missing a huge perspective. And we're not in that situation at Sanofi, and multiple companies are not in that situation anymore, but
Yeah.
some still exist. But you were talking about the role of a chief patient
Patient.
officer.
Yeah.
We had one too. I think we were the first big company, actually. There was
Yes.
another company who had it, who very successful, very impactful person who came. For a while, I was part of that office,
Ah.
centralized globally. It was very important at the time because we were leading a change management, an internal
Mm,
change management approach where it's culture, it's system, it's process. And it's more than just doing the work. You need
yeah.
to change the company mentality. So I was part of multiple type of version of
Yep.
that. And at Sanofi, we are the change management was important at the time. Now it moved to more making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not that one is necessarily disassociated, but change management is required,
Yeah.
top down,
Yep.
C-suite. But after that, it's okay, now that we get the message, we're behind it,
Yeah.
let's see how that then actually ensure that your innovations are more geared toward what the patient needs,
Sure.
truly meeting the patient needs and the patient outcome that he need, and making sure that patient actually have access to this. So my something that I truly believe is that if it is not this whole system of patient advocacy and patient centricity is not ingrained into the way we do manufacturing, we do research, we do development, we do market access, we do the medical affair and the public
Yeah.
affair, the corporate affair, then you're missing something. It's become
Sure.
like that kind of cost centers in the middle of
Yep.
an organization. So you can, in my mind, if you centralize for a need, makes sense. We have some centralization, especially around our processes, ethic and business integrity. We've centralized some of these systems. We've centralized in countries
Sure.
because there's so much synergies.
Yep.
We have global strategy that are created by center of excellence that we don't call anymore,
Sure.
but they're kind of the function that they play. But we have an hybrid approach where centralized makes sense and where it needs to be ingrained into the function, it's there and it makes
Yeah.
sense too. So it's working quite well.
Yeah.
But I've worked in multiple kind of iteration of how to make patient centers actually make a difference.
Yeah. No, you bring up a fantastic point, which is that in some organizations that do have a chief patient officer,
Yeah,
it's due to having to make that organizational change and
yeah,
have someone out in front leading that charge of this is how we're going to do things differently. But
yeah,
when you now have it as you've built, where the patient is ingrained into all areas of the organization. It's the
yeah,
responsibility of every department to focus on the patient. Then
yeah,
that chief patient officer role is not as necessary because that's the mindset of the company. That's the heart of the
yeah,
company is the patient.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I totally understand where you're coming from. You had referenced the fact that some of the barriers include diagnostics.
yeah,
And for the last 3 years, we've just seen Sanofi, especially in the diabetes space,
yeah,
your reputation, the partnerships and synergies with the patient community are truly off the charts. When we even look at, as you know, in our data, it's everyone in that diabetes space. So you have players like Eli Lilly who have been in it for over 100 years, right? And a Novo Nordisk,
yeah,
same thing. But Sanofi now is
Yeah.
surpassing those organizations. Tell me more about the diagnostic space. I know that we're seeing more and more patients,
Yeah.
especially type 1 diabetes, get diagnosed in their 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
But I would say that we're seeing that because of organizations like yours that have recognized these barriers to patients getting that initial diagnosis, not just a treatment for it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, there's multiple great companies in the diabetes space, and we're proud to be recognized as a company who is truly trying to help diabetes patients into this. Yeah, type 1 diabetes, a lot of patients, people different age, young kids or so on, are at risk, or they often develop or they first present with a disease sometime in a very emergency type of way,
Mm-hmm.
where all of a sudden they have a condition and they have to be in the emergency room, and it's very traumatic for the patient, traumatic for the family. And yes, we are the organization. This is the
Yeah,
thing: is the patient advocacy organization are the one truly advocating for
yeah,
many years about the importance of identifying these patients. So for us, it's more supporting their mission. It's their mission. It's their effort. And Sanofi is one of the proud supporter of these organizations, because
yep.
I don't have, my kids do not have diabetes, but I have friends, their kids have type 1 diabetes. And some of the story that I've heard about how they presented first with the disease is traumatic.
Yeah.
And I hope nobody has to go through that. And so that's why we're supporting this organization for the good work they do.
And Eric, going to give you your roses as their due. Sanofi went from, a player in the back of the pack, so to speak, to the number one patient advocacy function in the industry in the diabetes space, which shows how much your understanding. And for our audience, when you think about the fact that an industry organization like Sanofi is looking to come in and work with the diabetes community, as Eric referenced, it's not that they're coming in to push their weight around. It's that they identified whose mission is that, who has the trust of the community, and let's assist them. And that seems so simple, but in
Yeah.
industry, not so much, right, Eric?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it is. This is their mission. They're an independent organization.
Yeah.
And your role as a patient advocacy person in a biopharmaceutical company is to understand the problem that you see, that you're trying to solve, and then identify, and that's the discipline, identify who it's in their core mission to do so.
Yeah. Aha.
And that's your job.
Yep. That not just the what, but the who, and how do we help them accomplish their mission?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe even at times calling out blind spots they may have themselves. That's some of the
Well,
biggest feedback we've seen.
Yeah, well, on that point, I think these organizations are independent, but they also are seeking best practices.
Hmm.
Um, because if you are a patient advocacy organization in a specific therapeutic area or a specific core mission, let's say in the oncology space,
Sure.
so you know your space very well, and you know the other oncology group, and you talk to each other, you learn from each other. But sometimes you don't know what
Yeah.
the diabetes organization
Yeah.
can do or the rare organization can do. And what I find over the years, and I've worked with groups over many years, and like we talk about diagnosis, or we talk about some of the access issue or some of the awareness education issue, there is very common theme across
Mm.
all these therapeutic area. And people can learn from each other a
Yes.
lot about. So for me, one of the things that my team does very well and I'm very proud about is if an organization say, I'm trying to do X.
Mm.
Well, have you heard about that organization who is trying to do the same thing
Yeah.
and having them talk to each other? So we do a lot of that connection.
That's hands down what we have seen in the research that we've been doing for the last 11 years is the most value you can actually provide them is that connection.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to have all the solutions. You don't have to be the expert. We know that industry isn't necessarily going to be the trust leader, but that's the joy and the benefit of these synergies is that these folks do have the trust, but they may not know how to accomplish their task. They, of course, have a lot of turnover lately, and now people are taking on tasks they've never had to take on before. So building that coalition, so to speak, to help folks in one therapeutic area learn from those in another has been
Yeah.
some of the biggest asks we've seen.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's becoming a bigger ask because now the nonprofits are understanding they can do that,
Yeah.
that they can learn from other therapeutic areas. And it's organizations like yours that have shown them that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's critical because at the end, patients are waiting.
Yes.
If an organization who's trying to do something great can learn and it shave a month, 2 months of their effort and make them save some of their resources to do it in the most cost-effective way. I mean, at the end of the day, this is huge to me.
I love that.
Like,
At the end of
yeah,
the day, a patient is waiting at the
that's
end
right.
of it all.
That's right.
You had referenced the drug development phase, and in the industry, we've seen this split of, well, we have a drug that's commercialized. Maybe we'll have an advocacy team that's working on that. But if we're in the development phase, we'll go with engagement. Not here to debate right or wrong, but when you think about that drug development side, what's the impact that an everyday patient can have in helping to develop the next great product, the next miracle, as you had referenced earlier?
Yeah. Oh, huge. We have a team in place at Sanofi. Vicky DeBiase was a
Mm.
colleague of mine. Her and her team
You just won an
are
award, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
yeah, they
Yeah.
are amazing. They are amazing. And we work very closely together. Their team is listening to the unmet need of the patient and these insights inform our research, inform our development, inform the outcomes we're looking for, inform our clinical trials, inform our regulatory.
Mm.
And this team is working across all therapeutic area across the world, very proud of what they do.
Very
And
innovative.
we work very closely together because by listening to the voice of the patient years and years, I mean, we're talking about 5, 8+ years
Yeah.
before ever possibility of being accessible in a market,
Mm.
these insights accumulate and these insights then are kind of translated into what it
Sure.
means for access and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a super important function, and the people who do that across the pharmaceutical industry and the patient groups and the patients who are providing their voices for that is key.
Yeah.
One thing that is key, though, and I will say, is it is not enough to just listen to
Mm.
the patient. And this is why companies like Sanofi and others are, I'm feeling very proud of what they do, is
Yeah.
that they're not just listening, they're actually doing something about it.
Yes.
You know, like for example, we have had like amendment to changed to
Yes.
protocol and changed to the outcomes we're looking for and so on.
Yeah.
So at this point, 100% of our trials are informed by the voice of the
That's
patient,
awesome.
and we have countless amount of example where we have actually acting on the inside
Acted on it.
to make this trial better.
Yeah. That it's amazing to hear that. It's something that, going back when I first started this research 11 years ago, I would never hear, but to hear that not only are we listening, but we're acting upon it and we're letting the patients know that they had that impact. I
That's
think
right.
that's all that any patient wants. And continue on this vein of clinical trials.
Yeah.
Obviously, the inner city patient populations are hesitant to engage in clinical trials at times. Where do you feel that we can be, as an industry, more innovative in approaching disparate communities to help them understand why participate in a clinical trial?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because at the same time as we're having some of the best science out there, some of the most promising technology
Mm.
that could help patients. At the same time, participation in clinical trials is hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. There's many trials, and this equation needs to be improved.
Mm.
And it's very important also to have these clinical trials to be truly representative
Yeah.
of the people that you're trying to serve. So your question is very salient and topical because at the same time, there's more trials, more needs,
Mm.
also the needs to be more representative of the population you're serving. Then it hits some community that historically
Yeah.
have had low trust,
Yeah.
low trust.
Yes.
By the way, for very good reason. Huh?
Yeah.
So the aspect of trust is key. At Sanofi, we have a team, diversity in clinical trials.
Hmm.
Monica Adam is the head of that, and people there are amazing, who are truly aiming to explain what we do and what are the benefit for the population
Yeah.
to participate in trials. And it's about education and trust and participate and really educating people about
Yeah.
demystifying what these trials are.
That's a great point. Demystifying clinical
Yeah.
trials. As I like to talk with patients about, as you referenced, there are plenty of ills of our past that we have to discuss as an industry. But at the same time, standard of care, depending on your diagnosis, might be a clinical trial. And that sounds oxymoronic, but especially in the oncology space, if your disease has progressed to a certain point, the standard of care may be to get on the next best thing that's still in a clinical trial. And it's helping to, as you referenced, demystify what that means,
Yeah.
demystify the fact that you can have a voice in the creation of that trial, and that you're not a guinea pig, right? I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Even at times, the thought of, well, what happens if I am the placebo group, right?
Yeah.
And just the fact that, no, you're going to get at least the standard of care,
Yeah.
right? And it's demystifying a lot of that through education, as you reference. One of the scares, so to speak, or the worries of the patient community is AI.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on AI and how it can play a role in the advocacy world?
Yeah. I do believe artificial intelligence has a huge role to play. AI, to me, I have a lot of hope. My bias is I'm very bullish on AI.
Mm,
I've been studying AI. I've been doing programs on AI.
sure.
I have also adapted AI in our day-to-day work,
Yep.
and I've advocated also for patient protection in AI too.
Mm,
So,
I love
so
that.
yeah, I think I mean, you have this amazing brain. It's this
Yep.
all these collective knowledge together, and I can see the benefit in our research and our development. There's clearly efficiency, basic thing like
Oh
writing
yeah.
email, or for our
Yeah.
advocacy group to write fundraiser
Yeah. Grant or
email and
grant requests.
grant requests that they spend a lot of time doing website update
Yeah.
and so on. So clearly, there's efficiency, better impact, potential to help solve big problem in innovation and so on. So
Yeah.
I'm big bullish on that. The aspect that we have at the same time, I mean, because at the same time as innovation is there, we need to also ensure that people realize what it is and what it is not. It is not physician. It is
Yes.
not it's not everything, but it's very helpful. I mean, you can
Yeah.
get good information, and after that, you confirm with your doctor. One of the benefit I think to me that I see is better shared decision making because the
Yes.
patient is more educated, gets some information. It's don't trust it 100%, but
Yep.
it's giving you good guidance, and then you have a good discussion with your healthcare provider. That's an
Yeah.
example of AI. And also, a lot of advocacy organization own website information will end up in these AI search,
Yeah.
Gen AI search. So I think it's very important for advocacy organization to continue to be very public about
Yes.
their information, their position, and so on, to try to ensure that these Gen AI
Gets picked up.
search are accurate,
Yep.
represent. What we do have to be also cognizant, and this is where a lot of very good patient advocacy organization, including the National Health Council,
Hmm.
Randy Ruda and his team are doing
Yeah.
amazing work, is what is important in these models. Because right now you see, for example, in Utah, a lot of
Yeah.
discussion about AI model doing refill for patient.
Yeah.
So, and the medical professionals are saying, well, this cannot be. We have to be thoughtful about
Yep.
that. A patient needs to be in a loop. A physician needs to be in a loop. And so this aspect of patient protection,
Mm.
ensuring that the right healthcare stakeholders is involved is key. But when you look at the big picture, Matt, there's not enough people to do all the work we have to do.
Yep.
And the system there's a lot of friction in the system. So can digital and AI help?
Yeah.
The shortage of people, can it help people? Can it help with our processes? Absolutely.
Hmm.
So let's try to find the right balance. That
Yeah.
means, to me, as a clear call to action, patient advocacy organization needs to be involved, needs to
Mm.
have a seat at the table to shape that.
Great, great call. They
Yeah,
have an opportunity to shape it and
yeah,
ensure HIPAA, for example, right? And how do we ensure that a patient having a discussion with a LLM, that data stays there, right? Or that
Yeah.
there is some sort of protocol for that. Honestly, at ARCO, we're building and have actually launching very shortly a patient-focused record, a journal. I was just for the last couple of months thought back to what helped me the most, or what could have helped me as that patient for 18 years. And I had my
Yeah.
journal. I had a stack of CDs and discs of all of my X-rays and MRIs and CTs. And I said, how do we equip a patient with that without them having to
Yeah.
carry around all of these things? And that's what
Yeah.
we've built is we call it the empowered patient record. And it's allowing them to track symptoms, also side effects of medications,
Yeah.
but it's also that opportunity to, from a pharmacist perspective, did you hear from your pharmacist that these two medications are contraindicated or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But that symptomatology and the opportunity to synthesize the last 30 days, the last 90 days
Yeah.
to prepare you for that
Yeah.
appointment now
Yeah.
is, as you referenced, that shared decision making, really bringing the patient in a more educated and prepared mindset.
Yeah.
I think there's
Now,
opportunity.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It looks like a very practical idea.
Yeah.
And it comes from you being a patient advocate yourself. And again, you stay focused on what matters.
Yeah.
And the system makes it very hard for you and you coming up with, this is what I hear a lot in patient advocacy voices podcasts.
Yeah.
I have the privilege of interviewing people like you
Yeah.
and many patient advocacy leaders. And some of the themes that are coming through are very consistent.
Consistent themes. What, any in particular stand out?
Yes, absolutely. You're touching on it. And I think my biggest takeaway of Adam
Yeah.
is that the patient advocacy organization, they see the healthcare system more clearly than anyone else
Sure.
because they live close to what the patient experience every day.
Every day.
Like what you just said.
Yeah.
It is the bottom line. I mean, they are
Hmm.
passionate. They want to make a difference. And the clarity,
Yes.
they cut through the noise, you know?
So true.
And to me, that's why I love working with them.
Yeah. No, it's you sit in a very big seat in Sanofi, but at the same time, your podcast is honestly the inspiration for us starting this one. So we'll definitely make sure that we link to that because it brings some amazing voices to the table to have conversations like this. And again, continue to ensure that the patient is the center of all conversations.
That's right.
So appreciate you for that as well. And your mission is always coming back to the patient at all times. I have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
What has been, in your mind, the best compliment you or your team have ever received from an organization or a patient?
To go back to what we discussed about today,
Mhm.
I will say now, the best compliment from an advocate, it's when they feel respected by us. You see, because we talk about this aspect that you're a big biopharmaceutical
Yep.
company, you have innovation, you have research, you reach out to these groups, and some of these groups are smaller, some of these groups truly want hope and this innovation, and they provide you feedback. But if you're not truly listening to listen, not listening to waiting to say
Yeah.
something, but truly listening and to want to act, and they feel respected and they feel like you did something what they expect, and they tell you that, that's to me,
Yeah.
it's the highest standard and really the genuine partnerships. So when an advocate tells me, you listen, you understood what we're trying to tell you, you follow through. That's my biggest compliment. I will say, if you're serving my
Yes.
team, I
That's what
bet
they'll
you
say.
they will be,
Yep.
they will say.
Yep. I heard this from a patient advocate. It's lived on our website since, which is no company can call themselves patient centric. Only a patient can tell you you're patient centric,
Yeah,
right? And you hit right on that with regards to, I feel respected. That means,
yeah,
as you referenced, I feel heard, I feel validated, I feel like I matter. Because as you know, patients at many days don't feel like they matter. And
yeah.
it's amazing when you can give them that feeling. My last question for you, Eric. What advice would you give if you could go back and speak to your 20-year-old self?
Stock option? No. OpenAI and
Yes.
yeah. No,
Uber?
seriously. No, the I started my career in a healthcare system where I thought that you needed to be know-it-all. You had to
Mm,
perform, because you work with patients, you work with other healthcare professionals, you need to know everything.
yeah.
That's your credibility. And I brought that early in my career in the biopharmaceutical company, realizing that it was very wrong, especially when you work with very, very smart people and you work externally with very, very smart people. But you realize that you're missing something. They're not expecting you to be perfect. They're not expecting you to have all the information. They're expecting you to go back to the point we made about listening, to truly listen and do something with the information, and then think through together about really the problem you're trying to solve.
Mm,
So I would spend a lot less time performing, a lot more time truly listening
sure.
and thinking through about the problem I'm trying to solve.
Mm,
And this is what working with patient advocacy organization truly taught me about this importance of working with them, listening. They cut through the noise. They tell you exactly what you're trying to
yeah.
solve as a problem and brainstorm with them. So that would be my big thing.
Yeah.
Perform less, listen more.
I love that. Absolutely fantastic. Well, Eric, it has been an absolute privilege. Where can listeners find your podcast?
Yes. Patient Advocacy Voices
Mm,
podcast is through all the podcast
all podcast
channel,
channels?
all
Great.
podcast channel. We also have a YouTube on some of these. Also at Sanofi, we have a website on patient advocacy, LinkedIn, or email.
Yeah, fantastic. And we will make sure that we throw the link in the description of the show as well so that folks can easily find that. But Eric, thank you for all that you do and that your team does for patients every day from a patient and obviously a consultant's perspective. You guys are at the top of the heap when it comes to that work, but it's because of what you've shown today. It's that heart that truly you allow to lead and listening with your ears. So thank
Wow.
you, thank you, thank you.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for everything that you do. You're
Thank
making
you.
a big difference and
Appreciate
your
it.
personal experience, and now you're multiplying it to help many. Thank you so much.
Of course. Of course. Thanks so much, Eric. Have a great,
Okay.
great day.
Thank you.